Hello, everyone. Last week we wrapped up our element projects, and this week we're going to move on to talk about atoms, molecules, elements, and compounds and the differences between them. We know that atoms are the basic building blocks of matter, and they're formed from those subatomic particles, protons, neutrons, and electrons. Our electrons live in the electron shells or the orbits surrounding the nucleus, and that nucleus is made up of protons and neutrons. And we have molecules. Molecules are two or more atoms bonded together. So some examples of that would be oxygen. Two oxygen atoms bonded together, O2. Water, you're probably familiar with that chemical name, H2O. There are two atoms of hydrogen. There's two atoms of hydrogen in water and one atom of oxygen in water. We have carbon dioxide, one atom of carbon and two atoms of oxygen, and glucose. There are 6 atoms of carbon, 12 atoms of hydrogen, and 6 atoms of oxygen and glucose. And there are some other atoms, there are some other molecules pictured here as well. We've been learning about the periodic table, and we know that the periodic table is made up of different kinds of atoms. Atoms that have different amounts or protons, neutrons, and electrons make up different elements. And here is our periodic table pictured here. Now let's talk about compounds. Compounds are molecules that have one or more type of atom. So water would be an example of a compound because it has hydrogen and oxygen. It is also a molecule. Carbon dioxide is another example of a compound because it has carbon and oxygen. Those two different elements together, that makes up a compound. We have glucose and ammonia, also compounds. There's more than one type of atom in those chemical formulas. So if we look at our little Venn diagram here, we see that we have elements with atoms, which are the smallest amount of an element, and then we have molecules. There are 2 or more atoms that are chemically bonded together. Compounds are 2 or more different elements chemically bonded together. I've been talking a little bit about chemical formulas. We use the chemical symbol together with a subscript, and that little subscript is that small number right to the bottom right of the chemical symbol. And that tells us how many atoms are in the molecule. So H2O, there are 2 atoms of hydrogen in water. And if it doesn't have a subscript, that means there is just one atom. For example, in H2O, there is 1 atom of oxygen in water. Let's break that down with magnesium carbonate. I don't see a subscript next to the chemical symbol Mg, so that tells me that there's 1 atom of magnesium. There isn't a subscript next to the C for carbon. That tells me that there is 1 atom of carbon. And I see a subscript of 3 next to oxygen, telling me that there are 3 atoms of oxygen. So this is carbon. Would you identify this as an atom or a molecule? Here we have 2 atoms of carbon. Would you identify that as an atom or a molecule? And here we have ammonia, NH3. Is that an atom or a molecule? Sodium. Na is the chemical symbol or is the element symbol for sodium. Is that an atom or a molecule? Now let's decide if the next few slides are elements or compounds. Here we have 2 atoms of carbon and 2 atoms of hydrogen. Is that an element or a compound? We have water. 2 atoms of hydrogen, 1 atom of oxygen. Is that an element or a compound? Lithium. Li is the element symbol for lithium. Is that an element or a compound?